What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and in continuing my series of Disney movie reviews, I'm here to let you know that The Little Mermaid is no perfect movie. And as the majority of you know, the movie is about Princess Ariel, who is a mermaid that's fascinated by human culture, much to the disappointment of her father, King Triton. But when she falls in love with Eric, the prince of a local human kingdom, she is so desperate to please him that she makes a deal with the sea witch Ursula, played by Pat Carroll, where she trades her voice for a pair of human legs that and basically an entire spell that makes her human. And along with her friends Flounder, Sebastian, and Scuttle, it's a 3-day race against time to get Prince Eric to fall in love with him and hopefully change her into a human forever. And believe it or not, this is actually not only the very first film in the Disney Renaissance, but it's actually the last Disney movie that used the traditional form of animation where they hand painted the drawings onto the celluloid. And considering how much hard work and effort it took just to put the millions of bubbles that you see spreading off of the underwater creatures and all the techniques that it took just to put all of them in there, like airbrushing or even superimposition or even CGI at one point. There was so much hard work going into little things like that. You'd swear they'd use the xerography technique that they had done from 101 Dalmatians to The Rescuers. Hell, they actually did it in a few shots for this movie, and I gotta be honest, just having seen it today, I can't really think of that many shots where they would have done that. But regardless, the effort really goes to show. This is some of Disney's best animation just based on how they use color. Because whether or not a scene is happy and cheerful or dark and creepy, the colors from ranging from character skins, hair color, the lighting of the ocean, they're all bright and vibrant and make each scene so beautiful to look at, regardless of how happy or messed up a certain scene is. And it goes without saying, anyone who's seen it, anyone who's even heard it knows it, the music in this movie is absolutely fantastic. Alan Menken's original score gives each scene this big and epic feel to it, and the music slowly builds up until a climactic moment, and then it starts to quickly rise back up again. It was a great way to build up suspense without any dialogue, just the animation and the music combined. It's really no wonder that Alan Menken got an Oscar for Best Score. And it's also no wonder that him and Howard Ashman got an Oscar for Best Original Song, because the songs are so memorable and so catchy. Even if you've never seen the movie, you know for a fact what the titles of each song are. Part of Your World is a surprisingly small scale I Want song, because when you really think about it, it's just Ariel sitting down and reflecting on the things she knows about human life. But that's actually kind of what makes it a really good I Want song, is that it's very small scale. Ariel feels alone and isolated in this desire for knowledge. And of course, Under the Sea, my absolute personal favorite song in this. The reggae composition makes it incredibly catchy and easy to tap your feet to it. And Samuel E. Wright sings with so much energy and passion as Sebastian. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the co-writer of the songs, Howard Ashman, had a good chunk of creative control over the course of this movie. He was a co-producer. He had a lot of story meetings with the directors and the animators because he felt that animation and musicals were the perfect combination. He felt that musicals in film should be animation because it's so much easier to transition everything. And I absolutely agree with him on that. In fact, Jodie Benson, the voice of Ariel, even said that he had so much control that he could technically boss around the directors, John Musker and Ron Clements, and they would just trust him and they would just let him do whatever he wanted. In fact, his power as a co-producer was so good, he was able to bring in actors. He was able to cast actors because he knew for a fact that they had musical theater knowledge, and he knew that it was important for the characters to have good acting and singing capabilities. And you know what? Dude is easily one of the most important people in revitalizing Disney animation. And he was a lyricist. And I'm going to talk about this more in future videos, but he worked on 3 films. This, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. And unfortunately, when he passed away at age 40, he had only ever seen Little Mermaid get finished. Now, on a lighter note, the characters themselves are pretty good too. Flounder is your typical, but still likable scaredy cat who's not necessarily a coward. He will braven up when he sees his friends in danger. He'll come to their rescue as much as he can. Buddy Hackett as Scuttle gets a couple decent moments of dumb comedy that you would expect from Buddy Hackett. But my favorite character has always been Sebastian. Whenever anything goes wrong with him, his over the top facial expressions make him absolutely hilarious. Samuel E. Wright, as the voice actor, gives him this neurotic charm that you can latch onto very easily because he goes from being the court composer to being the royal babysitter within an instant. And he has to roll with all the punches as quickly as he can, and that's what makes those expressions come into play. But he's the one character who really understands Ariel the most because once she does turn human and he sees her with Eric, he does realize that she's never been happier and he softens up in a way that you can completely believe. And it was nice seeing someone, for lack of a better term, so crabby learn to have a heart and stand up for Ariel and realize that she can make tough decisions for her own life by herself. Ursula is also a pretty fun villain to watch too. It takes a couple scenes to really explain her backstory while also still try and build her up. And not gonna lie, I did a little bit of research on who they originally had in mind casting wise, and the directors actually were interested in Bea Arthur as Ursula. And being a Golden Girls fan and knowing her Broadway experience, there's a part of me that really wants to know how that would have worked out. But as is, Ursula is still a simultaneously sadistic and menacing, but still funny villain at the exact same time. And that's because Pat Carroll has this sinister but still low-key voice that makes her sound sadistic and makes her sound like she enjoys every single second of being evil. And I also found this out too. Poor Unfortunate Souls is actually the first Disney villain song where the villain actually sings it. Because really think about it. Cruella de Vil, she didn't sing it. And you know what? I can't think of that many other villain songs where the villains don't get to sing it. That seems like one of their trademarks. And as I said before, the animation presents her in such a vibrant and colorful but still menacing and creepy way. They use a lot of yellows, a lot of oranges and greens in her layer that really make her look intimidating, but you just can't look away because those colors are just so tempting. Now, I held off about talking about Ariel for now because for a lot of people, she makes or breaks the movie, and it's really no wonder why. And I'll say this, for the majority of the movie, I was fine with her. She has this thirst for knowledge that I really like about certain Disney characters like Tarzan or Milo from Atlantis, where they are so determined to learn things about other worlds that they become less attached to their own, but at the same time, they're still very open-minded about other people or other places that they've never been to, but they're willing to give it a chance. They're not willing to be biased like King Triton is. And I will say this, the romance between Ariel and Eric, it actually kind of made sense for once. They actually take time to get to know one another. And Eric himself is a pretty likable guy. When he's at sea, he'll do absolutely anything that his crewmates will if it means surviving, including risking his life to literally run into the fire and rescue people. And that's the kind of prince that you would want. One who would do exactly for you what your own subjects would do for the kingdom. And that's what makes him a likable character. But what doesn't work about Ariel's arc is that she doesn't really have one. As many people have pointed out, she doesn't really learn anything. She wants something, she complains about it, and causes a decent amount of trouble. But no matter what, she still gets exactly what she wants. And you never really get that many signs of remorse or guilt, if any at all. Sure, she says at one point, "Daddy, I'm sorry I didn't mean to," which... yeah, sure you didn't. I know some people could make the argument that Triton's bias against humanity was kind of what pushed her towards, like, going back up to the surface to introduce herself to Eric. And of course, as some people point out, she did inadvertently bring humanity and merfolk together, but at the same time, she made a deal with the devil over a man. So I'm not entirely sure that she brought two cultures together completely on purpose. But nevertheless, I don't hate her. Her passion for knowledge is what makes you invested throughout the majority of the movie. But as during the third act, especially during the climax, I didn't really feel bad for her. I didn't really feel the danger that she was in because she basically brought it on herself. But as is, The Little Mermaid gets so many things right, and the things they do well are absolutely breathtaking. The animation is some of their best. The music and the songs are some of their best. And the side characters are pretty likable. And you know what? Even though The Little Mermaid is the weakest part about The Little Mermaid, she's completely fine to me. So, for all those reasons, I'm going to give The Little Mermaid a 4 out of 5. Guys, thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of The Little Mermaid. And also, I've only seen Little Mermaid 2. How crappy are the sequels? Because I kind of like went back and forth from watching Little Mermaid 2, and every time I watched it, it was on cable, so I didn't see the whole thing. But regardless, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to stay tuned for more Disney reviews, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.